Hi everybody, welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. I'm Rebecca. I recap live trials for you while you craft. Yeah, everybody likes to listen to something while they're crafting, whether it's a podcast or true crime. I bring you trials that are going on Law and Crime or Court TV or some of the local news stations. Anyway, last night I've been in a mood. I'm just in a mood. So I decided to get the watercolors out last night, and I'm not going to show you anything that I did watercolor last night because it was horrible. Well, there was one. I did this one here. That's okay. This is a replication of a flower that Rhonda sent me. I'll try to put the actual flower here, and you'll see that it looks nothing like it. But that's okay. It's watercolor. This is one that I did this morning. A little better. But so my sister said, "Oh, I want to see your work last night." I'm like, "No, it's going in the garbage. It's in the garbage. As soon as it dries, it's in the garbage." She's like, Stephen King threw out Carrie and his wife fished it out of the garbage and sent it to the publisher. And I'm like, do not take my artwork out of the garbage because it's awful. So please stop. Anyway, today I'm going to talk to you about the Kowalski testimony of Maya Kowalski during the damages portion of their civil case. But first, that gift that keeps on giving, Alex Murdoch case. Yeah. So Alex won his motion in front of the appellate court. So you're like, oh, what did he win? Tell him what he's won, Vanna. Okay. So what Dick Carpotlian, Jim Griffin, the defense attorneys for Alex Murdoch. Alex Murdoch on trial for the death of Maggie and Paul. He was convicted of murdering his wife and son. He's serving life without the possibility of parole ×2 consecutively in a South Carolina prison. But naturally, when the case was finished, they filed an appeal with the Court of Appeals. And the main issue in that appellate motion, I'm positive, was the fact that during the trial, the judge allowed in all the evidence of those financial crimes. Should that have come in? Was that too prejudicial? They're waiting for the appellate court to decide this. That's the appeal. So Jim and Dick go pounding the pavement, knocking on juror doors, and they come up with what they believe is jury tampering, evidence of jury tampering by the clerk of court, Miss Becky. Yeah. So they filed a motion to hold the appeal that was filed in abeyance while remanding them back to the trial court so they can file a motion for a new trial with the trial court. So once they filed their motion, we had to give 10 days for the prosecution to file a response. So now the Court of Appeals has made a ruling on that motion. So the ruling is that the motion is granted. Now, what did they grant? They granted that they would hold the appeal on the issue of the financial crimes coming into the trial. We're going to hold on to that. We're not going to rule on that. We're just going to put it in abeyance. We're going to remand this case back to Judge Clifton Newman, the trial court. He's only there till January 1st, so you better get going. Go back to the trial court, file your motion for a new trial. Once they do that, then we have to wait for the prosecution to file their response. I'm sure they both got it ready to go. Boom, boom. It's going to be, I'm sure if that motion has been filed already, I'd be surprised. So they get to go file their motion. Then Judge Clifton Newman he'll have a hearing where he hears evidence on the motion, and then he will make a ruling as to whether Alex is entitled to a new trial for what is perceived to be jury tampering by the clerk of court, Miss Becky. That's what he won. He didn't win a new trial. So if you see that out there on social media, not true. He did win the motion that allows him to go back to the trial court and file a motion for a new trial. So we're not out of the weeds yet. There'll be more to talk about with Alex Murdoch. Much more. And don't forget, next week starts the trial of Charles Adelson. Who the heck is Charles Adelson? Some of you know. I've been doing this these trial recaps now for almost 3 years. Crafting and Crime Daily has been around for that long. Yeah, it's taken a while for it to catch on, but I'm in for the long haul. I'm retired now, so this is what I do. So Charles Adelson has been charged in the murder of Dan Markel. He was an FSU law professor, a criminal law professor. And very smart guy. He was married to a woman named Wendy Adelson, which is Charles Adelson's sister. At the time that this all went down, they had just gotten a divorce, Dan and Wendy. And Wendy was at the time they both lived in Tallahassee. He was at FSU working. She had a job at FSU. She's a lawyer as well, but she didn't like it. She wanted to take her 2 boys and move back to South Florida with the Adelson family in their Adelson family dentistry. So she moved the court. She filed a motion with the court, and the court said, no, you cannot take those boys out of the jurisdiction. Their father has a right to visit them. So she's a little upset. The Adelson family was a little upset. So you fast forward this, Dan has custody one weekday. He gets up, he makes the kids breakfast, and he takes them to their daycare. They were young. And then he goes to the gym, comes home from the gym, and he is followed. A car pulls in behind him in the driveway. A man by the name of Sigfredo Garcia gets out and of that car. In the passenger seat is a guy named Luis Rivera. He gets out, Sigfredo does, and he goes up to the passenger window. Dan Markel's sitting there on his phone, and he tells the guy on the phone, hey, hold on a minute, somebody's at my window. And the guy shoots him in the head. He passes away within that day or the next day at the hospital. But these were hitmen. Sigfredo and Luis were hitmen that were hired by a woman named Catherine Magmanoa, who happened to be Charles Adelson's girlfriend. You see, this is very circular. Yeah. So the question is, how involved was the rest of the Adelson family? Mama and Papa Adelson that were running this dental practice. Wendy Adelson, the wife, did she know? Did she not? I think she knew. She would always make this joke that Charles had bought her a TV as a divorce present because he said it was cheaper than hiring a hitman. And what happens? Somebody hires a hitman, Tube, to kill her ex-husband. Yes, so I covered the first trial. That was the trial against Sigfredo and Catherine, who had children together, and they called each other husband and wife, but they weren't actually married. Luis had taken a plea deal. Rivera, he had taken a plea deal. So he comes on the stand during the first trial, and he's singing like a canary. And, so Sigfredo gets convicted. He talks about the whole trip. Here's what we did going up. Here's what we did in the hotel. Here's what we did going back, and blah, blah, blah. So Catherine, the jury asked to her during that first trial, could not make a decision. So hung jury as to her. So she gets a second trial. And about a week before the second trial is scheduled to start, Charles Adelson is arrested. Her former boyfriend, brother of Wendy Adelson, Dan Markel's ex-wife. So next week starts Charles Adelson's trial. And on his defense witness list are his parents and Wendy. We're going to hear from them. Now, are they going to have immunity? We know Wendy testified in the prior 2 trials under what's called limited immunity. In other words, anything that she would testify to during that trial, she could not be the basis for a conviction of her in the future. Like it could not be held against her in the future if should she happen to be arrested. Now, are they going to give them the similar immunity in this case? I don't know. They're on the defense list. The defense has no authority to give them immunity. Right. Part two. Sorry about the lighting. My light is it's not working properly today. Neither is my microphone. I don't think I'm going to be live tonight. It's just that kind of day. It's like Friday the 13th, but it's not Friday the 13th. It's Wednesday the 17th. In any case, day 15 of the Kowalski trial. We're going to talk about that. So just to wrap up what I was saying about the Adelsons, I think there's going to be a fourth trial. Yeah, I think there's a good possibility that we see a fourth trial, maybe against the parents and Wendy, yeah, for their involvement in the death of Van Markel, the FSU law professor. So now we're going to talk about Maya Kowalski's testimony during her case, the damages portion of her case against Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital. I'm holding the microphone so I can see if it shuts off because it's done this to me 3 times now. Okay, so one of the first thing she was asked about, and I'm glad they asked because she looked like hell. Let me tell you, she was on the stand, pale, white as a ghost, white, pale. She doesn't look good. So her attorney asked her, how are you feeling right now? And she said she's having pain that's about a 7 or an 8. She says she doesn't want to seek out treatment for it because she doesn't want to upset her father. She thinks it would cause him to worry about her, and she's afraid that people don't believe her. So she just kind of grins and bears it. So regarding her sleep, she says, I'm up all night, or because she can't, her brain is just constantly thinking about this. Or if I do go to sleep, I wake up from a nightmare about the hospital. She enjoys reading, but she can't concentrate when she reads. So for school, she has to read things 2, 3, 4 times before she's actually comprehending what she's reading because her mind's not wandering, and she doesn't read for pleasure at all anymore. So going back to her physical condition, she says right now she's got lesions on her right leg, and that's kind of a symptom of CRPS. She also has this monoclonic twitching, like, you know, it can happen anywhere in her body. This is some other symptom of CRPS that she's been experiencing, and it has increased since the trial. She actually explained it to the jury during her first testimony. If you see it, don't worry. It's not a big deal. I guess she has atopic dermatitis, which she takes Dupixent for, but it is made worse by stress. And with respect to the use of ketamine, she said she doesn't use it because there's a stigma from people who don't understand the drug or what it's, how it's used in the treatment of CRPS. So she talked about things that trigger her anxiety. She's definitely got PTSD, and some of the things that trigger this post-traumatic stress disorder, that the anxiety that comes with it, are anybody that looks like Kathy Beatty. She said she got a job at Cracker Barrel and she was a server. She didn't work there very long, a couple months. She's serving one night and she sees a woman that looks just like Kathy Beatty. And she kind of freaked out. So she had to leave, and I think she lost her job, which is sad. So one of the things the experts are testifying is whether she'll be able to hold a job in the future because of this PTSD. Now, I suspect she probably will, but she's going to need a lot of therapy. A lot of therapy. So I'm going to talk about all these things that trigger her. So one of the things she testified was white sheets because all they had in the hospital were white sheets. So she said as soon as she got home, she changed her sheets to pink. She does not use white sheets in her room anymore. So for breakfast every day, she would eat cereal. And so now she won't go near cereal. Doesn't want it anymore. For lunch, she would have a grilled cheese. And now she won't eat grilled cheese. And for dinner, she would have spaghetti. So she said if she does eat Italian, it has to be some other kind of pasta than spaghetti, like, you know, rigatoni or yeah. Anyway, she just avoids spaghetti. Also, she's Kathy Beatty would wear the color purple a lot, like me, the color purple. And so the color purple triggers her, as well as Kathy used to wear all gold jewelry, and she says that triggers her. She stays all she will wear is silver jewelry. Then some of the things that she used to enjoy doing. So one of the claims is loss of enjoyment of life. Loss of I can't say it anyway. She used to sing. She doesn't sing anymore. She used to play piano. She doesn't play piano anymore. She was learning Polish. She said she can communicate with her aunt because her aunt knows some English. So between the two languages, she can kind of make out what's being said. But when she talks to her grandmother, who only speaks Polish, she can't. She doesn't know what she's saying because her mom's not around to teach her anymore. And figure skating. She was actually, before she was hospitalized, a competitive figure skater. So her mom would go and she would do her hair and her makeup and um, whatever, make her costumes. And now she won't do figure skating anymore because it's the thing she did with her mom, and she's afraid if she falls, she's going to injure herself and trigger the CRPS. So she doesn't do any of those things. She said that when she left the hospital, her hair was so matted because nobody would help her with her hair that they had to cut her hair off. It was that bad. And she had very poor dental hygiene because she had to use a wheelchair. She was not ambulatory while she was in this hospital. And people wouldn't help her with her dental hygiene. And if you don't tell a 10-year-old to brush her teeth, they're ain't going to brush their teeth. Nope. So then some of the other things she talked about that were going on in the hospital that now trigger her in real life are alarms. When you're in a hospital, there's constant alarms. The alarms of machines, the alarms of codes, there's always alarms going off. So now when she hears she couldn't go to public school, she tried to go to public school, and the bells between classes and also clocks ticking. She said in her bedroom she had a clock that ticked. You know how if there's nothing going on and you're sitting there, she said she was very, very bored. She sat there for hours and she would just listen to the clock and think, well, maybe during the next hour they're going to come to get me and get me out of here. Oh, maybe in the next hour. So she just heard this clock. So the same clock that they have in all the schoolrooms, and she had to stop going to public school because of the alarms and the clock. Also, people wearing scrubs. She cannot go anywhere near someone wearing scrubs. Interesting. And she avoids going to doctors. She'll go to the dentist. She's I'll go to the dentist because I wasn't harmed by a dentist, but she doesn't like to go to other doctors. She talked about the Skyway Bridge, that she doesn't like to go over it because it reminds her of, you know, going to that hospital. Now, with respect to the phone conversations she had with her mother, she said she felt that they were very scripted and that, they were very limited about what they could talk about. And so she felt like maybe her mom didn't think she cared because she was so limited in what she could say. And she feels like the death of her mom is her fault. So, so sad. Oh, okay. So that's the show for today. They are going forward with the David Tronis case. The defense has rested their case. The David Tronis did not elect to take the stand. They have done closing arguments this morning. I'm going to listen to those today while I'm crafting, and I will bring you a recap of the closings. And if they have a verdict, I'll bring you that as well tomorrow and let you see it. So have a great day, everybody, and take care. I'll see you tomorrow on Crafting and Crime Daily. There will not be a live tonight, so take care.